Okay, so next we're just going to do a brief introduction to Solidity programming. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this. The easiest way is to use the web page called Remix, which is a free Solidity IDE in your web browser. So if we go to this web page, this is the Remix web page, and you can see up here it says Remix Solidity IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment, which is just a fancy word for a place to write your programs. So what this does is it makes it easy to get started, because you don't have to download and install something. You don't have to go out and buy a program. You don't have to download and install it. It's built into this web page, and it's a good place to get started because it's fast and easy. So okay, so here I copy and pasted the code into the web page, and this basically represents a text file, like a notepad file, but on a web page. And they save that file as ballot. Ballot is the name of the file. .sol. .sol is the three-letter extension. SOL for it's a Solidity file. If we wanted to, we could remove that file. And then come up here and create a file. We can say we can give it our own name, my file .sol. Okay, so now we have a blank file, a blank text file to write our code in. We can come back over here and copy the code. Come over here and paste the code in. Here's our code. Okay, so we can click Start to Compile. What we can do here is come over to the Settings tab and click a compiler. See, this is one version. Here's another version. Here's another version. So here at the top we have 0.4.0. So that's an older version. It seems to be a common version. We'll find that here. So 0.4.0. So the meaning of that caret, that upside down V, means or above. 0.4.0 or newer. But here we're just selecting that version. Then we can come back to compile, click compile. Now those warnings went away. See, that code worked in the older versions. Then we can click run. Where do we want to run it? There's different ways you can run it. We're going to run it inside the JavaScript VM, inside the web page. Click deploy. See, here's the name of our contract. My first contract. Okay, so next we click deploy. We get these boxes here. We can type in a number. Click set age. Type in a name. These have to be in parentheses. Click set name. Then we can click this button to get the age. Prints out 50. We can click get name, and it gets the name Jim. Okay, so learning this code here, if you're just starting from scratch, that could take maybe 6 months, a year, give or take, depending how fast you go. So if you're just getting started, I don't expect you to understand this code. I'm just following that one video, so this is pretty tough stuff, you know. So this is just a brief introduction to what we're going to use to do those videos. So we'll go through this in detail when we start doing the programming videos. Okay, so to end this section on Ethereum, I thought I'd bring this fella up here. He's one of the inventors of Ethereum, and I think he had a lot to do with Bitcoin too. He's got a lot of videos on YouTube. We talked about him earlier. He's a programmer and writer, primarily known as co-founder of Ethereum and as co-founder of Bitcoin magazine. Here's a video where he explains what Ethereum is. Here's a video he did January 2018 where he does a forecast for Ethereum. And something else when it comes to Ethereum and all this virtual machine stuff on the web, you'll hear him talk about Web 3.0. You know, Web 3.0 is just a fancy name for modern websites. So in general, you know, there's Web 1, Web 2, and now we're moving into Web 3. So there's a lot of overlap. So here's my take on it. You know, 1990s or so, you know, for you young people, the web really didn't catch on until like 95. You know, one of my first computers was a small Mac. You know, screen was about this big. And basically we just looked at web pages. When you just look at a web page that doesn't move, that doesn't do anything, that's what they mean by static. It's just sitting there, it's static, you know. It's kind of like looking at online brochures. You know, if you were going to go into like a travel agency and pick up a brochure for some vacation spot, you're looking at a brochure. Well, then you could go to their web page and look at the online brochure. Basically the same thing. They did have Perl and JavaScript back then, but it was mainly for real exotic websites. You know, I'm not even sure if Amazon was around yet. You know, we all take Amazon for granted, you know, that it's always been there, but so then Web 2.0, I'd say around 2000 or so, they created dynamic web pages. So those were the two main things: static web pages, and then we had dynamic web pages. Web pages that actually do something. You know, you can go to Amazon and click on buttons. You can go to a website, click on items, and look at things that you want to buy, a bigger picture, and things like that. You know, when Facebook and Twitter came around, you could actually type into a web page, click the button, and your text would be posted to the web. I mean, that's some very advanced features, you know, as compared to the old-fashioned web pages, where you had to open up a web page editor, write in the text, and then upload the new HTML file. You know, some people say this dynamic stuff started with Ajax. Ajax was an invention of a web page that would change without you even doing something to it, you know. But I think dynamic is anything that changes, you know. And now with Web 3.0, 2010, 2015, you know, it's just advanced websites, you know, and there's all types of topics, you know, the Internet of Things. I read one article, they call it a semantic web page, you know, web pages with machine learning and robotics behind the web programming and things like that. So like I said, there's a lot of overlap here. One article I read, to go from Web 1 to Web 2, there was like a 15-year overlap. So I'm sure the same thing is starting to happen now. You know, we've heard of the Internet of Things now for years, and it's still kind of wishy-washy. You know, my feeling is if it can be hacked, it's not ready for public use yet. You know, they're still in the invention stage. So, you know, take this section with a grain of salt. That's my take on it. Here's a good article by PC Magazine. Whenever I get into a new topic, PC Magazine is a good place to start, because when you're reading things on the web, you never know if it's good or bad. You know, usually though, if you go to like PC Magazine or one of the bigger websites, hopefully the information was verified before they put it up on the web. And then here, you know, is Web 3.0 really a thing? Pretty good article. How will Web 3.0 work? So it seems like everybody's got their own take on the topic. And here's another good video by Ivan. He describes Ethereum and Web 3.0. And I've got this graphic here, number 32. So just to read through some of these. So here they're talking about, you know, storage and Web 3.0. You know, how is all this information and data going to be stored out on the Ethereum virtual machines? You know, that's a lot of space that they expect us to have on our computers to run these nodes. So here they're saying there are people who are working on decentralized storage systems, and he names a few of the systems: Swarm, IPFS. But here he's saying none are ready for use yet. This fellow's saying decentralized storage. I do not think it means the actual data is on the blockchain. They are just pointers and hashes. It roughly means off-chain storage, where the blockchain is used as an incentive for structure for the file system and to locate which computers are storing which files. So they're expecting some people to store information and others aren't. I guess that's what this fellow's saying. When Ethereum folks talk about Web 3.0, they generally referring to the so-called Holy Trinity that consists of Ethereum, blockchain, and Whisper protocol for messaging between nodes, and the Swarm file system for storage. Okay, so we got Ethereum, Whisper, and Swarm. So we got three big topics right there. Now you as a programmer, I'm approaching these as a programmer. You don't have to know the details of all this stuff. You just got to understand the basics. How do my programs use Whisper? How do my programs use Swarm? It would be humanly impossible to comprehend everything. Some employers may expect you to, but it's not humanly possible. So, and then here, I would love to see a video on how Web 2.0 can merge with Web 3.0, especially with the important point of storage. I think the world won't flip overnight to 3.0. There's a lot of overlap. We still have static web pages, right, that we just look at. There's no dynamic, there's no buttons to click on. So Web 1.0 still exists, right? Well, the same thing here. Web 2.0 web pages, things with buttons and things like that will still exist that don't use the new Web 3.0 features. Certain websites will use Web 3.0. Some will still be Web 1, some will be Web 2, so everything will coexist. Everything's not going to move to Web 3.0. I remember hearing years ago, one of Google's goals was to put every book in the library on the web. Where is it? When I search for books, I can't find them. Once in a blue moon, I might find something I'm looking for. Somebody buys the PDF and puts it online. So, I'm sure they ran into copyright issues. People write books, they want to sell them, right? Google can't just take all these books and put them on the web for free. That was their goal, but they probably ran into issues where, hey, you can't do that. That's my material. You can't just give it away for free. So, there's going to be a lot of issues here too. So what they're talking about with this storage thing is, as Ethereum gets big, each node here, if I'm running an Ethereum node on my home computer, how much space are they going to use? 1 gig, 2 gigs, terabyte? Are they really going to expect me to have a terabyte worth of data? 20 years from now, it'll be 100 terabytes, So that's why they're talking here, they're trying to figure out this decentralized storage system. So, normally as a programmer, we don't have to worry about those things so much. Those things are taken care of for us behind the scenes. You may be able to specify only store it on top level Ethereum machines, or let it go to all machines. You know, the top level machines might be major businesses, big schools, government offices, things like that. You know. Other people who have heavy duty computer systems at home, so who knows how they're gonna work it out. Okay, so that ends the section on Ethereum, and then we're up to number 7, and I'm gonna try to skim through the rest of these pretty quickly. Maybe we'll squeeze this all into one more video. You know, it's just an overview, so we can get into the programming end. Okay, see ya. Bye.